I was riding my motorcycle down 6 Mile westbound, and as I got to Levan, as my front wheel got on the intersection, the car turned left in front of me, and I piled right into it face first. The next thing was a beautiful sky, and I don't know how long I was out, but I was out a few minutes, I suppose, and it took me a couple more minutes to figure out that I was hit. And I was going to get up, and then I was stopped from getting up by a woman who came from my left, and I pushed the helmet off and laid back down. In and out again, and then there were EMTs, and they took me to the hospital. I don't remember the ride to the hospital, but I remember one of them reaching down here before he put the brace on to push my face back on.
I was the neurosurgeon on call. I got a page to see Josh. I went over to see him in the ER. He was complaining about his neck. He was in a collar at the time. And he was having some extremity pain as well. At that point, we got a CAT scan that showed potential disc herniations in his neck, and he had a follow-up MRI, which showed he did have these herniated discs in his neck. We commonly refer to these things as whiplash when people talk about neck pain. Whiplash is really a muscular issue. Herniated discs and ligamentous injury, that's from the spine itself. Those type of things are not whiplash, so you shouldn't really confuse the two. A lot of people will get neck pain, but when you have a herniated disc, the neck pain, it's a different type of pain. It's more excruciating. So at that point, I evaluated his spine, see if he needed emergent surgery. At that particular time, he did not. And then after physical therapy and with him and being in a collar, he was sent out to follow up with me as an outpatient basis to try some conservative treatment.
I couldn't hold my head up, and they weren't getting any better. We were in therapy and a lot of work, but it wasn't getting any better.
Some of these disc herniations can potentially recede over time. So you try physical therapy, try injections, and you see if these things can make a difference. If they don't, and you continue to have persistent symptoms, then at that point, you suggest to do a surgery to decompress the spine as well as the nerves. I didn't want to fuse him because there's a greater chance of him having a problem after a fusion. So we elected to do an artificial disc.
The idea was that we could replace them with artificial discs, which, yes, I have full motion. I also have my arm back. That was numb and weak.
I personally have been putting artificial discs in for 11 years. I've used every iteration, first and second generation of all these discs. And currently, the Mobi-C is accepted as being the best one. And you're looking at the right side of his neck, his base of his skull. These are the discs, and this is the artificial disc. This is the Mobi-C that I did put in him.
But the first thing I did once I was fairly awake was I started moving my head. And it was like, I can move it, and it wasn't hurting. And I was like, it doesn't hurt, and I can move it. Yeah, I was super happy at that point.
I pride myself in trying to get patients to go back to work. And that means that, in my mind, that's success. He's back to playing guitar, bass, drums. So I think he's happy again.
When I go to see Dr. Pannu at Michigan Head and Spine Institute, you always see the doctor, not an assistant, not an associate. You see the doctor, and he gives you all the time you want. It's very nice to work with someone who knows what they're doing. And everything he said was thus and so. He says, I'm going to do this, and this should do that. And yeah, just as advertised, essentially.